Welcome to this Risk and Insurance Education Alliance Insights podcast. My name is Mitch Dunford, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Lisa Gardner. Hey, Lisa.
Hey Mitch, how you doing?
Good. Great to see you.
Good to see you
Um,
too.
Today, we are thrilled to have Deborah Buettner, CIC, with us. Deborah is the personal lines underwriter and manager at Risk Placement Services, where she's been making a difference since 2005. And from what I understand, she'll talk about this in a minute, she actually started in the industry as a child. And so we'll hear more about that in a second. Deborah has over 30 years of industry experience and started as a CSR in an agency and is now specializing in hard to place homeowners, farms, and even small aviation and drones. Can't wait to hear more from her. Welcome, Deborah. It's great to have you.
It is a pleasure to be here, Mitch. Thank you. And Lisa, it's good seeing you again.
Good to see you.
So, tell us more about your upbringing, how you got started in the industry as a child, and how you found insurance and your current role at RPS.
So I started as a child because my dad had an agency. I did not seek out insurance because he had a life and health agency with very minimal property and casualty. It was not my vibe, but hey, he paid me to make sure all his files were neat. And at one point when I was 12, he gave me a script and said, start making cold calls.
That's
I was
amazing.
very shy and I kind of had a little stutter. And he felt I needed confidence. So cold calling, that'll
Yep,
give me
there you go.
confidence.
Throw you in the fire. Yeah.
Exactly. So I got $1 for every appointment. And if he made a sale, I got $5. So at 12, I started making his calls for him. And it certainly helped. I'm not shy and I don't accept no anymore. So it has definitely helped me. In high school, through high school, I still helped in his agency some. I did future business leaders. I wanted to go that route of business. My mother had other plans for me, and my brother, she wanted a doctor and a nurse. So my brother is now a physician, and I went through nursing school. I did that in the 90s, and I worked mostly with specifically an autoimmune physician and working with AIDS patients
Wow.
specifically. It was very, very difficult on my
Yeah.
mental health, honestly. And
Yeah.
in 1999, I decided I'm taking a break from nursing. I'm going to go work in an agency, kind of something I knew and I was comfortable with. I needed a break. Never come back.
That's
I
right.
never thought about going back because it was better for me to be on the business side. So I started out answering calls. I was doing phones and certificates of insurance for mortgage companies. And that's where I started. And I very quickly moved into a CSR role and then got my agent license and had my own small book of business. But the whole time I was at my agency, I was fascinated with the underwriting side of it because in Florida, where I worked, it was a small town, but the agency, everything we did was E&S because we
Hmm.
worked on condominium associations. That was our bread and butter. Admitted is not touching the associations. So we did, I got very lucky. And MGA came up to my tiny town because the owner of the MGA wanted to retire. So I ended up going into underwriting that way. And then RPS bought Gaber Insurance. And here I am. But I will say, Ron Gaber, he was the owner of Gaber Insurance. He was an amazing underwriter. He taught me what underwriting meant, and he was an amazing teacher and mentor. So I got a very good start with him.
That's amazing. Lisa?
What a great story. Hey, Deborah, can you talk a little bit more about your role as a CSR and how you got their start? And then also how the skills and abilities you gained through that position helped develop you as an agent?
Oh, absolutely. So as a CSR, I feel like people think it's just data entry and moving paper. And in some instances, sure. But I spent a lot of times honestly double checking my agents, making sure they were getting the information. And so as a CSR, you become very familiar with what is actually needed on the underwriting side and getting that and pulling that information out of your agents and insured. So it really gave me, without being thrown in the deep end, what is needing to sell to properly get proper coverage, to do it correctly. It was a good start for that. Um, versus if I had just gone right into agent, like being an agent, and it was all sales all the time, I would have missed the underwriting part of it and only focused on the sales. So it really gave me that foundation I needed to eventually make it here. So
You hold quite a few designations, including our CIC designations. When did you start your formal insurance educational journey? Was it as a CSR?
actually, no. I in Florida where I was working, I got my education was to get my licensing. And
Okay.
at that time, it wasn't much on computers, so I had to mail in my chapters. It was
Right.
correspondence course. It was crazy. Got my licensing. I looked into designations, but at that time, no one was really helping pay for it. And that was a big obstacle for me. I had a little one, life,
Sure.
and it was an obstacle at that time. So as I went into underwriting, even though it was on the back of my mind, it just wasn't the right time. And so when I with RPS, they pay, they really encourage you to get out there and get your designations and so the first I looked into CIC first, and I'll be honest, CIC definitely is close to my heart. I love the way it's set up, the in-person classes. They do the questions as you're doing it. That really helped my brain. How I think was the best way for me. Um, and I had planned to do more, but I did not start that until 2018. So it took a long time for me to start that journey. And I think because CSR, learning to be an agent, learning to be an underwriter. So it was constant learning, but now I could like work on those designations that I've always wanted.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and it wasn't, and I did go to other designations during COVID because everything was online.
Right.
And I was able to just boom, boom, take the classes. I wasn't traveling, I was going nowhere. So I could
Yeah.
sit and learn and really better myself with it. So yeah,
You know,
that's
it's
kind of how that started, but it wasn't until 2018. Yeah.
well, you're a great role model in that and many other ways, and people who've known you know that you have a lot of strengths. Could you talk about some of your natural strengths and how these supported you in your work as a CSR and then as an agent? And were there particular skills that you had to develop versus skills that you had and were sort of latent and came out more as you worked over time?
Yeah, I did. So having even in high school doing an FBLA and doing those office skills were helpful. However, what I feel is my biggest strength is also kind of my worst. Um, I have bad ADD, but I can do multiple things at once, take in everything at one time. And it just the way my brain works, I'm able to take in a lot of information and very quickly boom, 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 boom. And so that is definitely a strength. It does hurt me in other respects, but it's really helped in what I do now because I can look at an application, take in a lot of information at once, and decide pretty quickly where it needs to go. So I don't struggle with that part of it. Um, so yes, I joke that ADD is my superpower, but I think there are learned things. You have to be very organized. You have to. Whatever that looks like to each person, but you have to stick to your organizational, to your organization. Um, that's something I had to learn, was my to be super organized, because my brain doesn't let me otherwise. So it is something that I had to learn over the years. So yes, superpower, yet it also can make me a little bit a squirrely.
Well, it's great that you have a chance to use that strength in such an effective way. I think I remember talking to you one time and you said you had about 300 emails in your inbox a day. And managing that is a superpower in and of itself.
Yes. And that's where my organization comes in to help me with that. But also, I can look at it, boom, look at it, and I know where it needs to go. So it does help me in that respect.
So let me shift gears a little bit and talk more about your role at RPS. You went to work at RPS. You worked for them for over 20 years now. What initially excited you about the chance to work at RPS, and how did you know that was the right next step?
So when RPS bought the MGA I was working for, I will admit I was very apprehensive. Oh, this I from mom and pop, where there's 25 people in the whole company, to RPS. Honestly, it was a little bit overwhelming. But as I got to know the people, our culture, they promote women. I literally can email our president right now and he knows my name. We have thousands of employees, and for them to know who you are
Wow.
means something.
Yeah.
I don't feel forgotten. I feel like what I say matters. I can request a meeting with our regional person. Sure, we'll get you up. It is so personable that it made me feel like, okay, I'm going to definitely give them a shot. They live by our tenants. We have our Arthur J. Gallagher. We have our tenants, and you can see it in the way they do business and the way they treat their employees. I have stayed because of that. I know some people want to get their foot in the door, and that is great for each individual. But I like how they make me feel that I matter, and what I do every day is seen, and that's very important, at least to me. And so that's why I stay. What I do every day is different, and that's also what I like. I travel, I see my agents, I see carriers, I get to work with my agencies, and then some days I sit at a computer all day and do quotes. So for my squirrely brain, it is different every day. I never get bored. They keep it interesting. So I have fun and I'm seen. So for
I
me,
love
there's
what I love what you said about core values, the values of your company. And, a lot of organizations have core values and they print them out on a sheet of paper and post them on their wall, but they never pay attention to them. Sounds to me like RPS pays attention to those core values, which you appreciate. In fact, on your wallpaper there behind you on the screen, there are the tenants that you were talking about. How do those core values impact your brand? And do you see that reflected in your relationship with your customers?
yeah, I do. When they've worked with us for any amount of time or they've done any kind of research on us, we have competitors, and sometimes we have the same markets. But when they work with us versus someone else, they know we're going to stick to that. We're going to, when we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it, because we're living we're living our brand. And it's not just pick me. It is literally, we want to do the best for you. We want to protect your client. We want you as our client to do better and build your business, because that does help us, but we're partners. And being partners with our agents or with our carriers, it I feel like for our customers, they know if we say it, we're going to do it. We have the integrity, we're living it. I have yet to meet anyone in my company that I can say, no, we're all living it. And if they don't stay long.
Love that. Our industry, we sell a promise.
Mhm.
And if we can't keep promises to ourselves, how can we keep promises to our clients in the industries that we service? So love that. That's terrific. Sorry, Lisa, for hijacking that. I love the concept of brand, and obviously I'm a CMO, but it's so important not only externally to our customers, but internally and how our people feel about working with us.
I thought it was a great question, Mitch, and I loved your answer, Deborah. Gives us even deeper insights into RPS as an organization, which is important
Yes.
as part of this. So, talking about your current role as a personal lines manager at RPS, you work with the excess and surplus lines markets, and not all of our listeners are going to know very much about that. So, could you talk about what that means, who your customers are, and how do they find you?
So, as an MGA or a broker working on the excess and surplus line side, simply means we have to think outside the box. We have carriers that are what are called them admitted or standard lines. They have they on the state they're working in, they give them their rates, they give them their paperwork, and they have financial backing. The ENS markets don't need or don't require the state's financial backing. We have our reinsurance, we're financially stable ourselves. So we're working with companies that basically are financially stable and can think outside the box. So when we get a risk that doesn't fit into your normal standard lines. Now, standard lines, their rates are lower. They don't have all the taxes added onto them. If they can go there, that's where they need to go. That's where they fit. If you have claims or you have weird stuff that no one wants to touch, you have to come to us. And although it's a little more expensive, we can take a policy and kind of manually make some endorsements and some changes. And we're a little more flexible on how we're going to insure your home or your farm or something that doesn't fit in those other markets. So we want to give you the coverages you qualify for. But if there's one thing we don't like, then we can exclude that one tiny thing where other those standard lines companies, it's pass or fail with them. So what I like about the ENS is you got to be creative. How do I get this written? It's not a yes or no. It's not a, oh, we don't like your roof, so you're out. No, we don't like your roof. We'll just exclude that roof. The rest, we want to give you your water. We want to give you those coverages that can make you whole because that's what we're in the business to do. But if we know there's a problem that's not if, it's when there's going to be a claim and it's something that as a client you should be maintaining or managing, we'll exclude it until it's taken care of. So that's kind of why I like the ENS space. And here in the personal lines, we have the ENS markets where either we have to send it to them as a broker or we do the underwriting and we decide the rate. And I enjoy both those aspects of it. And I didn't know if you wanted me to go in more of brokerage versus MGA.
Sure.
So as an MGA, we have contracts with our partner carriers. And I'll be honest, some of them I've had to interview with carriers before they'll give me a contract that says, we trust you to properly underwrite this within our guidelines. And we give you what is called giving you the pen, which means I get to underwrite it, send out the quote, claims will go through us. Like we manage that. That is our book. As a broker, we are simply a middleman. And I know some people think a broker, like you take information, you hand it off. You get the quote, you hand it off. It is not this boring, I promise. You are there as the middle person. You negotiate. You negotiate on behalf of the agent. You negotiate on behalf, you go to the carrier and say, this is what we're trying to do for them. This is what we need. This is why. So you are there to do that, negotiate and fight for your clients. And then on the other side, for the carrier, you then have to sell it to the agent of, look, they've had 8 water damage claims. You cannot have water. This is why. So then you have to educate your agent and then sell it to the agency. So either way, you're going back and forth and you're not just sitting there doing this. And so both sides, whether you're an MGA and you're doing that underwriting or you're a broker and you're advocate, is both are very important, and both, some people like one more than others. It just, I'm grateful in personal lines I get to do both. Where in our commercial, they have a brokerage and then they have our binding, and they do split them. I like to be able to do both. Like I said, it keeps it interesting. It doesn't get boring at all.
Well, exactly, and it speaks well to your skill set that you can perform both roles because not everyone could. So it's a compliment to you as well. I want to talk a little bit about some of the most interesting risks that you've helped place.
So, especially when I first started out, I wrote in Florida. Florida is special in so many ways, but some of the craziest was brand new home. It was probably a $2 million home, but they liked their fish. So the whole walls were an aquarium. So
Oh,
as you're
wow.
going through the house, just walls. So there's 40,000 gallons of water in these
No.
walls for this fish. And so it's a brand new house. You can't really exclude water damage. The pipes are great, but no one wanted to actually cover the aquarium or the damage that aquarium could cause. So we went to Lloyd's of London, worked up a very attractive quote because it was a brand new house. So everything else was brand new, but we manually scripted exclusions for water damage to and from the monstrosity that was that aquarium. And we were on it for several years, until that, I don't know what happened. The client sold it or whatever, sold the house. But it was fun to try to make it work. And we literally manually excluded this, had to send it to legal to make sure all the wording was correct and all the legalese. But we wrote that for several years. And then the other crazy one was my favorite was beachfront, 2-story home. Um, the owner was like 26 years old, had made money on sites that I don't even know if I can say the word online. Uh, so he had a young man with lots of money. Overlooking the pool on the second floor balcony was a skateboard ramp.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, it could, all the crazy. So we got to get very particular on, yeah, we're going to cover this, but not the skateboard ramp. And, we had to do some liability exclusions. We had to really nitpick it down to, it's a beautiful 2-story brand new home. We want to give them the coverage they deserve. But there's some of the weird we weren't real happy with, but we got it written. So yeah, so we would see weird stuff like that.
Interesting.
Those two are my two favorites.
Yeah, fish tanks and skateboard ramps.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong? Yeah.
And someone's gonna be jumping off that balcony into that pool. It's gonna happen. You know.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to involve alcohol too to make things
There
even
you
more
go.
right.
Yes, very much. So 100%. So those are some of the crazy things we've seen. Most on the day to day, we're seeing just lots of claims, lots and lots of claims, and those I feel are fairly easy. Oh, you got 4 claims, got you. You know, those I feel are easy. It's when you get into the skateboard ramp on the second floor balcony, when you're going to have long conversations with your carrier on how we can do this.
Yeah.
So are there some risks that are just impossible or nearly impossible to place? And can you talk about that?
Um, there are. There's been a couple things come across my desk that is just absolutely cannot touch them. There, and it has to do with either maintenance issues where it is old house with nothing's ever been updated, and they don't plan to. You can't expect the knob and tube and that, like, if you're not going to make your house insurable, we can't insure it. The other things I run into are celebrities. And it may be celebrities that have a history of being in the media or being sued a lot or having standoffs with police. So when we run across things like that, nobody's going to touch them. They kind of have to prove themselves again that they're going to behave. So I'm sure there is somewhere out there that's going to touch them. And I have a lot of carriers, none of them would. Not even my Lloyd's markets. But like I said, I'm sure there are somewhere, but I haven't found them. But that's really the ones that I just can't touch.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, Google is my friend. I have to Google everybody. So
So one of the things that I especially appreciate about Deborah is the time that she spends talking to folks, students who think they might like to work at RPS or enter the ENS industry, and talk about your role as a mentor with students and new employees at RPS.
that's probably one of my favorite things to do. I am, at least for my branch, our intern coordinator. So I get to spend a lot of time with them. Even if they're not in my department, I get to spend time with them. And a lot of them actually stay in touch, with what I love. I love checking in, seeing where they end up, seeing what they're doing. And what I find is as I talk to these young people, even if they're an intern here or not, MGA, RPS, any that may not be their journey. They may do better on a carrier level. They may have more of an agency personality because just because you're in the industry does not mean one size fits all. And once I get to know them, I'll be like, you know what? You've had a great summer here, but maybe carrier. You have like personality for that. Or you'd love being, you might like owning your own agency, depending on their personality. So getting to know them allows me to kind of help them in their journey to see where they fit. So they're not ending up places that aren't good fits for them and getting discouraged. This is an industry that it doesn't matter, introvert, extrovert, there is a spot for you.
Very true. If you're into marketing, if you're into sales, if you're into analytics, I mean, there is a
Exactly.
place. Yep.
And so helping them figure that out early on so that they can start and be happy in their journey versus, oh, I hated that, or oh, this doesn't fit. Like I said, it's not one size fits all. So I genuinely enjoy that. I have a meeting with a group at the end of this month. We're going to discuss getting a designation over the summer, um, as well as depending on their interest, what would be the best course? What would be, where should they start? Also, then next month, we are meeting a panel from RPS. We're going down to meet with the marketing group and the risk management students, internship, interviewing, the do's and don'ts, what to expect, what not to expect. Because sometimes, as in the internship, it's not your normal day to day. When you're actually working here, you don't spend half the day working on your sales, your sales plan. And we have a big competition at the end of the summer. That's not a normal day. You're doing, but you are doing quotes. You are out visiting agents. You're visiting with carriers. That is more real life. So letting them, working with them to see what is real, what is not, but also giving them a fun summer, letting them know, seeing if it fits for them. Um, so I genuinely enjoy. They are our future, and I want to make it as easy as possible for them to start their journey faster than I did and find my spot. If I had a better mentor, when I finally got to Gaber, and Ron Gaber was an amazing mentor for me. And he also, when he retired, I had great mentors here at RPS. So having a mentor to, bounce off ideas, get together once in a while was instrumental for me getting to where I'm at and also getting involved with the students. I've always wanted to do that. I didn't know if I could or how to start or where to get. My boss here was just like, yeah, go down, meet with them. So having my boss mentor me and support me. Oh, you like working with the students? Go down, meet with them, and had that support. And I want that for our next generation.
Deborah, who would you say have been your most influential mentors? And if you could choose three things that have impacted your career the most, what would they be?
So Ron Gaber, for teaching me underwriting and the nuances, not just click these buttons, do that. No, the nuances and what's important and how to truly do it to protect your carrier and help your insured. Then Laura Allen, she has since retired from RPS. She was our regional VP of the Southeast. And to see, she showed me that RPS is exactly what I wanted it to be. They promote the women, they listen to us, they're supportive. And being in a male dominated world, especially when I was younger in a small town, I was iffy about it. And she was living proof. And she really taught me to speak up, ask for what I want, don't be afraid. And then I'd like to say Matt Meyer. He was my boss. He recently he's no longer my boss. He went back into production uh, because, hey, this is fun. he missed he missed production. So, but he was supportive. He didn't micromanage. He allowed me to kind of find my way as a manager, at least up here in Kentucky. He let me find my own self as a manager, and he supported me. Oh, you want to go get a designation? Go. You got to travel for that? Go. He wanted me to be the best version of myself and never made me feel like I was becoming obsolete. Oh, you need more education? Go. Love that about him. And so those would probably be my top three.
What a tribute. Thanks for sharing that.
So, lastly, let's talk a little bit about your volunteer work. And holy cow, you have been so involved with so many organizations, from Girl Scouts to Sebastian Sharks Youth Football and Cheerleading to the Elks to Sebastian River Junior Women's Club. Talk about that and why that matters to you.
So growing up in a small town, um, I always was, community. We always talk about community. And when my daughter was very, very young, my ex-husband went in for a surgery, had a brain injury. So it was just kind of her and I. I had my parents, but they both worked. My community came together for us in a way I can't even describe. If I needed a babysitter, if I needed community. And this was kind of my way of giving back. I didn't have money at the time, but I could give my time. And so with Girl Scouts, it was something for my daughter to be involved in. My daughter was a football player. She was an offensive lineman. She did not want to be a cheerleader. So I was very involved with the football team. I became I was their accountant essentially. And so while she was part of that, I put in my time. The Elks, being a tiny community, it's also a community full of retired individuals The Elks Lodge was just a great place for me to get involved with that is also national. So I worked my way through all I liked what they stood for. Let me put it that way. Their focus was on veterans and children. And so having a child, uh, I wanted her to have a place she could feel comfortable. Um, so I got involved there. So it was always kind of starting with, oh, something for my daughter. But the junior women's club was for me. Even though they have a juniorettes, that was my daughter was part of. One of my oldest friends, she's like, "Do you still play your trumpet and French horn?" I said, "Yes, I do." Had been a while. They were looking for band members, and this was, gosh, 15 years ago. She's like, "Well, we need to fill some holes in our when we're marching in our parade." Sure, why not? Because in the summer there's no school band. They didn't have a band marching, and they're like, "We're tired of this. We're going to make our own band." Okay, so I started out in their band. But what I liked about that organization is even though they're very grassroots, they're international. They're everywhere. They and it's very, very grassroots. Like kindergarten in California was started by a group, a women's club. The bookmobiles, most of those were done by women's clubs. So it started out, what would start out as an idea would grow amongst the various branches, I guess. So being part of them, it was a way we did a lot in our community. It's a small community, but we also did state things, national things, international things. Um, Story. There's a book on the women's club in Florida. What is now the Everglades was once at a time when women could not own property. We did not want it to get developed, and the state president of our group of the group was the governor's wife. So we were able to save it from getting developed. It's called
Oh,
Royal Point. We owned it for a while and then gave it back to the state as a park. So women can get a lot done even if they don't have a say, essentially. And I like that about the group. And so I'm actually still, even though they're in Florida, I still fly down for events. And I would fly down and march in the parade. During COVID, there hasn't been a lot of I didn't march, obviously, but I've been down there a couple times for our fundraisers and events that we have, and even community things. So I'm still very involved with that group. And now that I'm here in Kentucky, I've joined the Women's League, and so I'm getting involved with them here. So I feel like in your community, if you're not giving back, how can you expect your community to take care of you? Like it's a give and take, you know, and I have time to give. So I'm
very,
also
very
one other organization here in Kentucky that I've been involved in the last couple of years is Operation Secret Santa. It's a local branch. And this year, I want to say they helped with 3,000 families.
wow.
And
That's
it started in someone's garage.
yeah.
The woman who started it here started in her garage and really grew. And so every year I help with volunteering, getting either delivering toys or working as a personal shopper or help with checkout, whatever, wherever the need is, because it is for the kids. So
Deborah, thanks for joining us today. I know I speak for Lisa, but your passion for the industry, your willingness to mentor young people, help them find a career in the industry, and what you're doing in your community is heartwarming. And it's why we love working in this industry so much. So thank you for joining us. It's been a delight.
thank you so much for having me.
So that concludes our podcast for today. If you'd like more information about the Alliance or any of our designations or programs, you can visit our website at riskeducation.org. Until next time, thanks for watching.